Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We've got a good one today. We're going to be diving into Stoic mindfulness. And we've got some really interesting articles you guys have sent over. I'm excited to get into them.
Yeah, it's really interesting how these two different philosophies, Stoicism and mindfulness, separated by centuries, have so much in common.
It's true. It's like we're uncovering this hidden connection between these two worlds. And we're not just talking about mindfulness as in like this modern self-care thing. This is like core Stoic philosophy. It goes all the way back to Epictetus.
Yeah, Epictetus, that Stoic rock star, he had a word for this type of mindfulness, prozoke.
Prozoke.
Okay, sounds intense. It does have a certain gravitas to it, but it really gets at the core of what the Stoic approach to mindfulness is. It's like, imagine this, you're completely aware of all those thoughts flowing through your mind, kind of like watching leaves flow down a river, right? That awareness, that attentiveness, that's prozoche.
So it's not just like letting your thoughts run wild. It's more like you're the observer at the edge of the river, just watching everything go by.
Exactly. And that's where we see this key difference between traditional mindfulness and what we're calling Stoic mindfulness. Both practices, yeah, they value being present in the moment. But Stoicism takes it a step further. It's not just about how you pay attention, it's about what you're choosing to focus on.
Being intentional with your attention. And you mentioned aligning our attention with those Stoic principles. And it makes me think, we've got to talk about those 3 rules from Epictetus. Those seem like a good place to frame all of this.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are like the fundamental building blocks of Stoic mindfulness. The first is about understanding what is up to us, what we can actually control, our own thoughts and actions.
So I can't control the weather, but I can control how I react to it.
Exactly. You can bring an umbrella or you can dance in the rain. It's your call. And then the second rule, it's about understanding our specific roles, parent, friend, colleague, you name it.
Right, like if my specific role is the reliable colleague, maybe I don't roll into a meeting late with a half-eaten donut in my hand.
Exactly. And then that third rule, it kind of brings it all home. It's about our general roles as human beings.
So I like that. So it's like, yeah, we have these specific roles to play, but we're also all in this together. There's something kind of comforting about that when I think about it.
There is. And in all those roles, we're dealing with impressions and judgments and just all the stuff of life, And Stoicism encourages us to take a step back and say, okay, are these judgments based on reason, on virtue, or are these just distractions?
Being discerning about where you put your energy and your attention. But, like one of the articles said, sometimes our thoughts get so tangled up in how we see these events around us, right? Someone cuts me off in traffic, my first thought is, ugh, what a jerk, and boom, instant road rage.
Exactly, and that's a perfect example of how these judgments can hijack our emotions. And that's where this idea of cognitive distancing comes in. That's a key technique in Stoic mindfulness.
Cognitive distancing? Ooh, that sounds kind of like a superpower. What is that?
So one of the articles had a really great analogy. It said to think about it like looking at the world through colored glasses. The problem is we forget we're even wearing the glasses and start to believe the world actually is that color.
Okay, so we're all walking around looking at the world through these invisible judgment glasses. And sometimes they're tinted that angry color, that frustrated color.
Exactly. And cognitive distancing is about first just recognizing that, hey, we've got these glasses on in the first place. And then we can ask ourselves, okay, are these glasses giving me a clear view or are they distorting things?
So it's not about pretending we don't have emotions. It's more about understanding where those emotions are coming from. And then we get to choose, right? If we're going to let them control us or not.
Yes, exactly. And that's where those techniques from the articles come in. They're tools to take off the tinted glasses or at least try on a different pair, One that really resonated with me was this idea of actually talking to your thoughts.
Talking to your thoughts. Hold on. I know we're talking about mindfulness here, but that sounds a little like, am I about to start having full-on conversations with my cat over here?
It might sound a little strange at first, but it's like this. Imagine you're having one of those, unhelpful thought spirals like, oh, I totally bombed that presentation. Everyone probably thinks I'm incompetent now.
Oh, yeah. I've been in those thought spirals. They're not fun.
Right? So instead of letting that thought just take over, you acknowledge it. You're like, hey, thought, I see you trying to bring your negativity in here again. Thanks for sharing, but no thanks, not today.
Yeah, you're calling it out on its drama. I like it.
Yeah. And that's what creates that space between you and the thought. So you're not so caught up in it anymore. Another technique they talked about was using third-person self-talk. So instead of saying, ugh, I'm so stressed about this deadline, you would say, and you can try this with me, your name is feeling stressed about this deadline.
Wow. Okay. I've never talked about myself in the third person before.
Yeah.
It feels very formal.
I know, it feels kind of strange at first, but it's interesting because when you just shift the language a bit, it creates a little psychological distance from the emotion, so you can observe it instead of getting completely swept away.
So I'm like an observer of my own experience then. Okay. I can see how that would be super helpful for those moments where it feels like your emotions are about to take you on a wild ride. What other cognitive distancing tricks did the articles mention?
Well, there's always good old journaling, but of course with a Stoic twist.
Ooh, I love a good plot twist. Tell me more.
So the articles were talking about how the Stoics would journal as if they were writing to a close friend to get advice or just a fresh perspective. It wasn't just about venting. It was about engaging with those thoughts and feelings in a constructive way.
So it's not like, "Dear diary, I am so over today."
Yeah,
It's more like, "Dear best friend, I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed by this deadline."
exactly. And what's really cool is that just the act of putting those thoughts into words, like you're explaining it to someone else, that can actually help us see things more clearly ourselves. It's like you're helping your brain organize those thoughts into something that makes sense.
So it's like I'm having a conversation with my wise friend, but my friend is me. I love that.
It is. And remember, all these techniques we've been talking about, the talking to your thoughts, the third person self-talk, the journaling, they're tools. They're in our Stoic mindfulness toolbox now. The important thing is to find what works for you and to remember what the goal is here, to create that space between our judgments and those external events that are happening. Because remember, the articles made it so clear. It's not the events themselves that are causing us distress. It's our interpretation of them.
Oh, that reminds me of that saying, you can't control the cards you're dealt, but you can control how you play your hand.
That's a good one. And Stoic mindfulness helps us play that hand with a little more, skill and wisdom.
Speaking of wisdom, this kind of brings up something I think a lot of people wonder about with Stoicism, including myself. This whole focus on what you can control thing. When does that become kind of selfish? Are we all just supposed to retreat into our own little Stoic bubbles and ignore what everyone else is going through?
That's a really good question, and honestly, it's something I've thought about a lot too, but one of the articles actually addressed that concern directly. It said that Stoicism doesn't say we should be isolated or apathetic. It actually emphasizes virtue, like doing what is right and good, and it acknowledges how interconnected we all are.
So we're not going for emotionless robot status over here.
No, definitely not. The articles really highlighted that Stoicism wants us to take action in the world, but we should be doing it from a place of, awareness and virtue.
Right, yeah. So it's not about becoming some kind of unemotional robot, which good, because I like my emotions.
Yeah.
Even the messy ones. But it's about finding that balance between being aware of ourselves and also still being present and engaged with the world around us.
Exactly. And to emphasize this, the articles actually quoted some of those big Stoic thinkers, like Marcus Aurelius. He said, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another, then, is contrary to nature."
Okay, that's a very vivid analogy. I get it. We're all part of something bigger here.
Yes, exactly. And so when we're practicing Stoic mindfulness, we're not just trying to cultivate inner peace for ourselves. We're actually becoming more able to contribute to the well-being of everyone around us.
I like that. It's like that ripple effect. Our own, clarity and resilience can create positive change out in the world. So we've covered a lot, from ancient philosophers to modern day mindfulness techniques. And I feel like we've gotten some really useful tools here to deal with whatever life throws at us. I'm curious though, what were some of the things that really stood out to you from the articles when you were going through all this?
Honestly, what really got me was this idea of starting small. One of the articles, it actually challenged readers. It said, pick just one Stoic principle, or one maxim even, and try to really live by it, just in your regular life, even if it's just for a day or a week. Just try it.
Oh, I like that. It's not about this huge overnight life makeover.
Right.
It's about those small steps.
Exactly. It could be as simple as the next time something frustrating happens, you try to approach it with a little more patience, a little more reason, instead of just reacting immediately. Or, maybe you take a few minutes each day to be grateful for all the good stuff in your life, no matter how small, instead of focusing on what you don't have.
And then just notice. Notice how those small changes make you feel. And how those changes might even like ripple out to the people around you.
Yes, exactly. It's about bringing that awareness into everything we do.
This has been a great deep dive. I've really enjoyed this one. We went from ancient philosophy to modern mindfulness and back again. And I think we've all learned some pretty amazing tools that we can use to live with more intention.
It's been great. And it just goes to show, even though these different schools of thought were developed centuries apart, they really complement each other. There's a lot we can still learn from them today.
Absolutely. And as always, we don't want to let you go without giving you something to think about. So here's our final thought-provoking question for you. If you had to pick one part of your life where you could practice a bit more Stoic mindfulness, what would it be? And why? Is there a relationship or a situation or a challenge that could use a little more presence, a little more intention, maybe a little dose of that Stoic wisdom? Think about it.
Steady like a metronome, life ain't no paradise. Swimming dust in catacombs, mind steel clad, heart calm amidst the cyclone. Strength in the stillness where my scars has a keystone. Stoic sword slice through chaos, never once deterred. Struggle forged the iron will, silence is preferred. Pillars patience, wisdom's echo never slurred. Battlegrounds rage and virtues blaze undisturbed. Vice is tempted, whispers in the midnight. Virtue's lantern, cutting through the dark night. Battle rages, yet I'm standing on the Zen height. Stoic vision, crystal clear, guiding through the fight. Running through the gauntlet, fire in my veins burn. Painted teacher, lessons edge, pages that we turn. Fortress of the mind, no retreat, no concern. Virtue steady beacon, storms I discern. Running through the gauntlet, fire in my veins burn. Painted teacher, lessons edge, pages that we turn. Fortress of the mind, no retreat, no concern. Virtue steady beacon, storms I discern. Against the current, standing tall, never bent. World spins frantic, I refuse to relent. Timeless wisdom flows every single event. Stoic calm, unyielding, life's true testament. Weight of 1,000 trials, break chains, ascend. Mind over matter, wounds mend, start again. Clarity and silence, restless anger transcend. Stoic path, unshaken till the very
really be a success. But what Dr. James realized about his philosophy of success was that the first part is indeed more important than the second. Going for it. As long as you're working toward your inner goal, your dream, then success is possible. But once you give up your inner vision, then you can never become successful. You never will become successful. Until doesn't even matter. Now, maybe the person who's been working on a project for 10 years can be successful in his own right, if he's honestly working toward it, doing everything to make himself worthy of reaching the dream, really happy with where he is, doing it until. Then maybe he is a success. It's a personal thing, going for it one step at a time, going for small accomplishments along the way for however long it takes. So let's think about this for a moment. What outside evidence or results or proof can be seen when you accomplish your goals one step at a time? You'll start to see things change around you, little things, not major things, but little everyday things, things you may not even notice unless you are paying attention. If you're one of those who'd rather stay up late and get up late, only to discover that your workplace doesn't fit your schedule, and you roll out of bed cursing the alarm clock every morning, maybe you could start with the little change of going to bed half an hour earlier than normal. And maybe you'll see, in time of course, you can't train your body overnight, maybe you'll find out that you jump out of bed in a better mood, and that your day will start better, and that you'll get more done.
To be truly happy, you have to be willing to let go of what makes you unhappy. Don't work after 50 because money won't let you know yourself. Spend time wisely, then you will be extended.
The energy of the mind is the essence of life. Aristotle.
Do not moan, do not complain. Learn to be thick-skinned. Your friends' problems become your problems. The smaller your social circle, the fewer problems you have.
You see, in life, lots of people know what to do, but few people actually do what they know. Knowing is not enough. You must take action. Tony Robbins.
For several dispositions or inclinations there be of the mind and understanding, which to be aware of, thou must carefully observe. And whensoever thou doest discover them, thou must rectify them, saying to thyself concerning every one of them, this imagination is not necessary, this is uncharitable, this thou shalt speak as another man's slave, or instrument, than which nothing can be more senseless and absurd. For the fourth, thou shalt sharply check and upbraid thyself, for that thou doest suffer that more divine part in thee, to become subject and obnoxious to that more ignoble part of thy body, and the gross lusts and concupiscences thereof.
Everything in my life, so I had to learn this ability that I talked about. My physical gave me the self-discipline, and that literally has carried me over to I can sit down and study what may take some people an hour to study. I have to sit down for maybe 10 hours to learn the same. And that's very frustrating. So I always think about running and swimming and all the stuff I did in the military and pull-up records and powerlifting, all these physical feats. Some of the hardest I do in my life is just learning. But I got that self-discipline from waking up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning to go out in the cold weather, to get my run in, to get my lift in, to get my swim in, to do those things. It totally transfers over to my learning. It's that self-discipline you gain from feeling good about yourself by overcoming yourself on the physical aspect of life.
But I was like, because I kind of was preparing myself for the next part of my journey. I don't like to lay in my too long. And I give myself a couple of minutes to, okay, we got man to up. We got to get back. Like, what's next? Let's go see, let's go back to college. Let's do something, because you're running and your athletic career's done. And this was like literally a trained skill for me. Was I'm always preparing for like not being a bitch. Like a lot of people get to a point, like for instance, like if Jennifer can't do something, like if she can't go for a run or whatever, just like because something's wrong, like some simple shit, it's gonna bother her. I got to a point in my life where I realized this is life, and so I move on past things real quick. So people are like, oh my God, what are you gonna do, David, if you can't run? I'll swim, or I'll go to college, or I'll do something else. This this isn't my life.
Nothing is permanent in this wicked world, not even our troubles. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. A happy life consists in tranquility of mind. Cicero. You have to let go of what's behind you to reach what's in front of you. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future.
The present moment is the only reality. The past and future are illusions. Muji.
If it were thine act, and in thine own power, wouldest thou do it? If it were not, whom does tin accuse, the atoms or the gods? For to do either the part of a mad man, thou must therefore blame nobody, but if it be in thy power, redress what is amiss. If it be not, to what end is it to complain? For nothing should be done but to some certain end.
Our lives will take on a whole new meaning. They take on a whole new expression, valuing each moment that we are blessed with. The next thing that begins to nurture that hunger Honor yourself as your word. Don't give your word out lightly. When you throw your word out there and you don't honor it, it makes a statement about you. If you decide to maintain a sense of integrity with yourself, that if I speak it, I'm going to live it. It's who I am. And I'm going to be very cautious in how I give my word to others, and most of all with the commitments that I make to myself, because I want my life to reflect my words and honoring who I am and what I express. Another challenging area in terms of nurturing and developing that hunger in yourself is learning the art of becoming single-minded, learning how to concentrate, learning how to focus in. And you'll be surprised of the things that you're able to do when you learn how to block things out, when you learn how to keep thine eyes single. You'll be surprised of the ideas that will come to you, of the people that you'll be able to attract, of the opportunities that you'll be able to see. You'll begin to see things that have been staring there, looking you in the face, saying, I can't believe this has been here all this time. Here's a habit that I do. Maybe it might be of some value to you. I get up in the morning and I start writing what great ideas I can think of today that can improve me and that will enable me to reach my goal.
The world is what it is. You are what you are. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own.
In the end, it's not the years in your